My name's Briana Chavez. Then we have Mitchell Riberal and Zach Bruhl. We've got a couple questions for you today, and yeah, we can go ahead and get started. So the first question we would have is, we knew you were a tri-star athlete in high school, and you turned down baseball for football. So what made you pick football over baseball?
Well, quite honestly, I didn't make that choice. My parents did. I was a 17-year-old high school player. Like most young people, you play all the sports you can. I played baseball, basketball, and football. When I was 17, I was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals Major League Baseball team. And I wanted to play baseball bad. I really did. I felt it was my best sport. Of course, I was 17 at the time, so it was like an opportunity to be a pro baseball player. And for about a month, my parents and I at the dinner table argued and argued and argued. I wanted to play baseball. They wanted me to go to college. I have an older brother and older sister. Neither went to college. They felt it was just imperative that I would go to school. They convinced me that as an athlete, the next play could be your last, and they were right. And they said, if you go to college, you have that education forever. So that was one argument that I'm really thankful that I lost. I went to Youngstown State, got my education, was drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, and things worked out pretty well.
I guess a follow-up to that would be like, what would you think would have happened had you stayed playing for the St. Louis Cardinals? Do you think you would have made a pretty dang good career out of it? Or?
Oh, I would have been an all-star catcher. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't mean to sound cocky and arrogant, but I was a pretty good athlete. I was a catcher, and most people think because I was an NFL quarterback that I was a pitcher. I pitched a little bit, but man, I love being where the action was. I'd watch guys in the outfield. They'd stand around for 2.5 hours and the ball wouldn't come. As a catcher, you're involved with every single play. You're calling the pitches, you're dictating alignment. So I guess that quarterback was always part of me. Commanding the huddle, commanding a baseball team. It was something that I always enjoyed doing. But I still think now. Again, I'm a little confident. I still think I would have been an all-star baseball player if I had chosen baseball.
You mentioned that you played as many sports as you could as a young person. Do you see any issues with the way that people micro-focus on sports nowadays at such a young age? They kind of your parents decide a player plays football and they do it year-round. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, Zach, I grew up in an era where you played as many sports as you could, and I certainly think there was a transfer of skills from each sport. And I see now, young people, their parents are guiding them to play one sport, let it be baseball, basketball, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, whatever it may be. And I just felt, in my era, it was an advantage to play all sports. There was that crossover value. I'm not going to condemn or condone anyone that makes a choice for their child or their children make a choice for themselves, but I just felt there was value in playing all sports.
Transitioning to your NFL career, you got drafted by the Rams and you ended up winning a playoff game with them, and then you got traded to Philly. Could you kind of talk us through how you were able to transition from the Rams to Philly?
Yeah, it really was a fairly easy transition because when I was with the Los Angeles Rams my rookie year, Dick Vermeil was the running backs coach. Then after that rookie year, he went to UCLA as their head coach of the football team. Then 3 years later, he became the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Dick knew of my talents from the 1 year he spent with me. And when he came to Philadelphia, he realized that there was a good young quarterback out in Los Angeles that he knew a lot about. And he traded Charlie Young, an all-pro tight end, to Los Angeles to get me. So it really worked out well. But I think the key was Dick Vermeil knew me. He knew my talents. He knew my leadership skills. He also knew my weaknesses as well. He knew what I had to work on. So I think it was a real advantage that Dick Vermeil traded for me, knowing, having spent a year with me, what my strengths and weaknesses were. And it really worked out well. Coach Vermeil, to this day, and I are still dear friends. He's like a father to me. We talk on a weekly basis. He's a mentor. He mentors so many of his former players. So I was very fortunate as a young quarterback in the league to have a tough, demanding coach that really got the most out of me. So that transition really was kind of seamless, Mitchell, to come. It was tough moving from LA to Philly, but the football part was fairly easy.
Kind of like a follow-up question to that is there anything you'd go back and change from your NFL career?
Yeah, beating the Raiders in Super Bowl 15, not losing that game. That unfortunately you can't do that, and it always it brings up a great story because it was 1980, Super Bowl 15. We had beaten the Raiders in the regular season. The pre-game evening meeting at our hotel in New Orleans Saturday night before the Super Bowl. We left that meeting, and the last words from Coach Riberal were, "We'll be back here tomorrow night as the world champions." That's how confident we were. We felt we were going to win Super Bowl 15. It didn't happen. We did not play our best game. Clearly, we were, totally disappointed. But there was a certain part of our football team and our player mentality. We were a young team. And we felt that, hey, we're young. We got a good veteran team. We made it to the Super Bowl. We're going to be back. We'll be back next year. We'll win this game. And the irony is I played 17 years, went to one Super Bowl, and lost that game. So when I talk to all the quarterbacks now with my work with ESPN all that week. I'm at the Super Bowl. I talk to the young quarterbacks. They always ask me what it was like. What should I feel like? How should I act? What should I do? So they look for advice. To me, I learned from that experience. So when you get that one opportunity, be sure you are prepared to take advantage of it. And in Super Bowl 15, my first pass was intercepted. Not a good start. But what I had a receiver open in the flat. I tried to stick a throw. And sometimes you could try to win too hard and play too hard. And sometimes you have to let the game just come to you. And I tried to make every play. And that's what I tell the young quarterbacks that I see now that are in the Super Bowl. When I told a Kurt Warner and guys like that and a Drew Bledsoe and guys like that ask or say, let the game come to you. Don't force the game. Now, maybe later in the game, you may have to do that. But early in the game, just manage the game. Don't make mistakes and let the game come to you and let your talent take over.
Going back to your time with the Eagles, you held a record for the regular season touchdowns for the Eagles. And then it was broken 22 years later by Donovan McNabb. Could you kind of talk to us how you felt holding that record for such a long time?
Yeah, it's funny. Records really weren't that important to me. It's nice to have had it for 20-some years. I had the record for most consecutive starts by an NFL quarterback until Brett Favre broke that. So there were some records I had that at the time, okay, that's great. It's wonderful. But as time moves on, the records really weren't that important. And I just think that what I remember most now, I retired in 1990, so I've been away from the game a long time. There was a 99-yard touchdown pass to Mike Quick that will always be an NFL record. I can think of maybe there's some individual things that I've been able to do. But what stands out first and foremost are the guys that I lined up with, the players, the coaches, the athletic trainers, the equipment guys, those guys that you become really good friends with. And you maintain those relationships for a lifetime. And like I mentioned, Coach Riberal, that's a relationship I have for a lifetime. Other players that I'm very close to, Harold Carmichael is going into the Hall of Fame in a few months, and Wilbur Montgomery and Mike Quick and Jerry Sizemore, and guys that were great players, but they were better teammates. And those are the memories that I have of those people and the relationships and, the tears we shed and the beers we lifted and all those kind of things that go with it. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. And those are words, but they're true. They're true. So but the further I get away from my playing days, the more respect I have for the guys that I lined up and played with. They're the great memories that I have.
What was your transition like away from the NFL and into to your analyst role? What was it like to look at the game through that lens? And do you enjoy it quite as much as you did playing?
It was awesome. It was an unbelievable experience. And when I retired in 90, I was very fortunate to be hired by NFL Films and ESPN. So NFL Films is about 20 minutes from my house right here in New Jersey, their headquarters. So I think Steve Sable wanted to hire me because travel expenses would have been low. If I could drive to the office. Because I literally had no experience in the broadcast field. Yeah, I was an NFL quarterback for 17 years. You're around TV people and all that, but I really didn't have a whole lot of experience. So I go to NFL Films. In fact, I still have an office at NFL Films in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, where I can go in and listen to wires of players and watch the video. Now everything is on my large screen behind me, all the games within 2 hours. I got the game tape up on there. But in 1990, no one had access to the coaching tape. And if you know the show that I did for 25 years, the NFL Matchup Show, 25 years, and literally Greg Cosell, our executive producer, and him and I really literally invented that show by using coaching tape. So we would take a play from a Sunday game and highlight players and design the play, why it worked, why we didn't work. And we became more educators than analysts. We would talk about the game, the play, and take 2 or 3 minutes on one play and slow it down and run it back and show why it worked or why it didn't work. And we were the only outlet for the coaching tape on all the broadcast venues. Again, we're going back 30 years now. Now it's everywhere. Everyone has coaching tape. You can sign up for it through NFL Network or NFL Films now, and you could get the coaches tape and watch it yourself. Back then, coaches, general managers would never let that stuff out, man. They thought, they was going to give someone an edge, and it did, by the way. People that would look at the coaching tape was critically important. So I really stepped into something really, really that fit what I did well, because I really was maybe not the most gifted quarterback in the league, maybe not the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, all those things, but I was going to outwork everybody. That was kind of an attitude I always had. If you're staying up till 10 o'clock preparing for the game on Sunday, I'm going to stay up till 12 o'clock. And I'm going to study more tape. I'm going to break your game down. I'm going to find a weakness. And I'm going to find a coverage and audible. I'm going to outsmart you. I'm going to outwork you. And that was kind of my mantra. So when I retired from football, getting hired by ESPN and NFL Films, it was kind of the same thing. My mentor at ESPN was Mike Tirico. To me, one of the superstars in the business. And Mike was unbelievable. He went to Syracuse, the Morehouse School of Broadcast. Mike was the best. When I went in the studio, I didn't know what camera to look at. I'm really, I'm a football player. That's it. Mike, the camera with the light on you look at, Jaws. Oh, okay, duh. But literally, the transition, if it wasn't for guys like Mike Tirico and Stuart Scott, those guys that I worked with that taught me the business, I would have had success. So I'm so much indebted to those guys that taught me the business. And live TV, those were live TV shows. What you say comes out. You make a gaffe, there it is. It's live in someone's living room. So you prepare. You're ready for anything someone may ask you, and you outwork everybody. I always felt that was going to be the key to my success. Like I said, wasn't the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. Maybe I was tougher than most guys, but I was going to outwork people. I was going to find a way to win. And the same thing like you guys are going through. There's going to be people more talented. I'll guarantee you that. But you can outwork people and achieve great success with great preparation.
Well, with that, I guess it leads into one of our next questions, which what have you seen from people coming into the broadcast career field that you think they should improve on as more people come into that field?
It's interesting. For years, I was a teacher at the NFL boot camp, which is held at NFL Films, and all the executive producers from all the networks would come in for a week, and they'd bring probably 30 or 40 present NFL players that aspired to be broadcasters and in the business down the road. The Ross Tuckers of the world, guys that are doing, good things on TV. Booger McFarland was in the broadcast boot camp with us for 2 years. All these guys would spend a week at NFL Films. And they would sit in my office and, I'd just sit back in my chair and we'd put the video on and we'd just talk ball. And they would ask me questions like we're doing right now. Well, Josh, how would you present that to the fans? How would you make sure they understood that? And sometimes, like for 5 years, I did Monday Night Football with Tony Kornheiser, Mike Tirico, and John Gruden. And the hard part about live games are you've got a very tight window. My brain is short now. I got 100 things I want to say, but I had to condition myself to get it all out in 15 seconds. You got to be short. You got to be quick. You got to be to the point. And fortunately, prior to Monday Night Football, I did a lot of live shows, Countdown, all the pregame shows. So, when you're live, you got that tight window. So I've always felt that you need to be concise and prepared. And something that may take a minute and you really want to thoroughly drill down, you can't. When you're pretty much doing live shows, so your brain has to think really quick. And how do I get Joe Sixpack out there to understand what I know as an NFL quarterback for 17 years and make it transform to layman's terms. Don't try to be the smartest person on the set. Don't try to be the smartest person calling the game. John Madden's a perfect example of that. John was boom and bang and bang. That was John. He was an animated guy, and people related to that. He spoke in layman's terms, and I learned to be concise, be prepared, and have fun doing it. And I think that's probably why I hung around for 28 years as a broadcaster.
I'm curious, what's next for Ron Jaworski? Is there anything else on the horizon that you're looking forward to, or are you just?
There's always something. There's always something. I'm involved in a little project right now, and it's something that I thought about years ago. And there's actually Mike Tirico and I were on a set one day during a break, and we started talking about it. And like I always do, pat Mike on the back because he taught me so much. And we just started talking about possibly doing a broadcast school. Like people want to come and learn broadcasting. So I'm actually looking at a place called the Glens Mills School in Philadelphia, which is now closed. It's literally like a college campus. And I've got a bunch of guys that want to get involved and purchase the property, purchase the school. And one of the elements I want in the school is Mike Tirico School of Broadcasting for a letter, or it won't be me, but do something like that where people can now learn from people that have done it for a living, learn from the very best. So what started out as a conversation probably 20 years ago between Mike and I may come to fruition. So I'm looking at this opportunity. So who knows what'll happen? Maybe someday you guys will be part of my.
So you keep an eye out for an application with our names on it now.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to do? Let me ask you guys a question. What's your vision with your life? You want to get into the broadcast field?
I guess I'll go first. Yeah, definitely for me, I guess the end goal is going into broadcasting, more specifically baseball. I grew up around it. My sisters played it. I played it most of my life. And so I love it. It's something that just really brings my entire family together. And growing up, I remember so vividly how the broadcasters would just make the game so simple for my parents and I to understand. And I come from a family who English is not our first language. So the fact that the broadcasters made it so easy for us to understand, it's something I want to do for families who are like mine. So that's definitely what I want to do.
Well, Briana, I worked for many, many years with Susie Colbert. I used to call her the first lady of football. She hosted the NFL matchup show at a time when people would kind of say, "Wow, why you got a woman hosting a football show?"
Yeah.
She was phenomenal. She's still one of my dear friends in the business to this day. But I will tell you this, there wasn't a thing Susie Colbert didn't know. She was totally prepared because she knew that there were people that were going to doubt her. What's a woman doing in a man's world, doing a football show? She knew that she had to be totally prepared for every show that we did because that 22 minutes had millions of people watching her, and there are a lot of people watching for her to make a mistake. And damn, she never did because she was totally prepared. So I coined the term for Susie, the first lady of football. And to me, she is. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I
Mitch,
will.
what do you got? What are you looking to do?
I personally want to go into play-by-play broadcast. Since I've been young, every time I watch a game, because I'm a Rams fan, so I watch a lot of Rams games, and I always find myself trying to talk like how the announcers do and like following how they do it and take notes from them. So that's kind of what I want to pursue after.
Is there someone that you'd like to emulate? Is there someone you really like that you'd like to, or you've learned from, or someone that you think does a great job?
Yeah, I've learned a lot from watching all of them, but Mike Tirico and Al Michaels, just because those are two names two names I'm really familiar with. So I kind of make sure I watch their games a lot more.
There's a guy here in Philly by the name of Harry Callis who has since passed away. But Harry was the voice of the Philadelphia Phillies for many, many years. And he had the term, "It's out of here," that was his call. And everyone has kind of like that narrative that really is something that they're remembered by. And what I remember most about Harry, because he worked at NFL Films as well, and he would do baseball games. And he was kind of the voiceover for many of the NFL Films highlights. And I would tape some of my voiceovers in the studio at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. And it would take me about 15 minutes to do a couple minutes voiceovers. And I would just kind of hang around because at 9:30, Harry would come in and do his voiceovers. And I would wait for him to get finished. We would just sit in the conference room and talk. And just talk sports. Although he was doing some football, mostly baseball, I would just pick his brain. So I was always trying to learn something from a guy that was, in my opinion, one of the best in the business. So always try to find those good things in all the broadcasts, no matter what it may be, and find that good thing that you can emulate.
Okay.
And I want to host a morning radio show during the week, and I'd like to do football play-by-play during the weekend. Would be the ultimate goal for me.
You like talk radio?
Love talk radio. I'm, I guess, an old soul in that way. I can sit down all day and listen to talk radio from morning to night, man. And I would love to sit in a dark room and talk and argue sports all day long. It'd be a dream come true.
Zach, I'm glad you love that part of it, because I think live talk radio is the best way to learn how to think on your feet, because you have no idea what some knucklehead out there is going to call in and ask you. And I've done shows when I retired in '90. I was doing Eagles pregame radio and postgame radio. So you might get on the air at 11:30 at night, and half your audience is drunk, and they're calling in the show, and they're asking the dumbest questions, and you've got to respond to it. So I've always said live talk radio, call in questions. It makes you think on your feet, because you don't know what some of the unless you got a bleep button there, you just want to get rid of them. You have to answer that question. So I think you're doing a great job, Zach, of getting that experience with talk radio and live radio and dealing with people that you just don't know where the questions are coming from.
So yeah, there must be quite a difference between the pregame phone calls and the postgame phone calls.
Oh, you got that right.
Especially depending on the
Especially when you got a Sunday night kick at 8:30 or Monday night kick at 8:20. By the time 11:30 rolls around, yeah, it's a Phillies or an Eagles game. Oh yeah, they're inebriated, and especially if they lost and they're in the car on the way home, then you're really getting the tough questions.